What's up, everybody? We're on a podcast now. I'm Alex, and in this video, I want to talk about the Expanse game. We saw this about a month ago, a little less than a month, and I think it made people very, very happy. Another one of these, if they're not going to give us Mass Effect, I know all these different studios, but if we're never going to get a Mass Effect, at least we can get the Expanse, at least we can get Exodus, right? Some really cool games that, to be flat out honest with you, might end up just being better and doing things better than BioWare ever could. So, just want to throw that out there in the beginning. I know people are pumped for it, and I'll be very transparent and honest with you. I really don't have any knowledge of the Expanse and really not even all that much care. I mean, I am into sci-fi. I'm into anything that derives from like a Mass Effect type thing. So I played Telltale's The Expanse and thought that was fine, but I've never watched the show. I don't really read much, so I didn't do the book. I'm probably doing a disservice. But point being, I'm very much willing to jump into this thing, okay? You look at the channel, you look at things that I'm into. I think I'm very, very much into what they're creating here, and I hope that honestly, they can make a game that's incredible for Expanse fans and then also incredible for people that want to become the Expanse fans. Does that make sense? So it's a game that's on my radar. It's been on my radar for at least a month now. And they did an interview with Polygon. I'll leave the article in the description or a pinned comment so you guys can read the whole thing over. Shinobi over on Twitter just kind of summarized it, so I'm going to use his because he kind of takes out like when they type it, and he just had like the actual question part. So I'm going to lean into his thing real fast and just kind of go over stuff. Again, some of this stuff doesn't mean much to me, but the mechanics mean a lot to me, and the game is sounding freaking fantastic, okay? Again, a game to keep your eye on. So, Owlcat Games was very inspired by Mass Effect. Many of the team members played it in their youth. It would be impossible to deny that Mass Effect has had a lot of impact on us as game developers, but they're not trying to replicate it. Other systems were introduced since Mass Effect. Players are now accustomed to a lot more convenient user interfaces, convenient approaches to the gameplay, and we are doing that and not like modernizing Mass Effect, but just making a game in the same genre with all the modern trappings. The Expanse will have many choices and consequences and room for a lot of agency. Nuance is important to the story, so players won't be forced to be completely good or total sociopath. Choices will have varying effects, especially on companions, and then your background character, what you choose that they'll be, will affect the way you're treated by companions and NPCs. They give examples. You won't be welcome at certain places if you're a certain race. They even say, on the other hand, if you are of another origin, there'll be other opportunities and other places for you to explore. You'll have a twin sibling with you that'll be on board of the ship, and they may or may not agree with the choices made by you as the player. There's multiple romanceable companions among the ship's crew. And I just want to say this before I forget this, kind of that middle part about the choices and stuff. In the actual article, they talk about like, and he kind of mentions that like you don't have to go extremes, but they say like basically there's a lot of choices in this game, and they're not very, they're not as one-dimensional, or I guess two-dimensional. I don't even know how that would necessarily work. They're not like good choice, bad choice. They're more like you might have like a scatter brain type approach to it. That was in the article. He didn't put that there, but honestly, like that's even more exciting, right? I mean, look, I freaking adore Mass Effect, okay? And there will always be something special about going into Mass Effect and picking blue or red, okay? And honestly, there's something very, like, I don't know, like pure about that, where it's like, you generally want to either be in a game the greatest you can be, like the most good, or the most evil. So I just feel like there's something very natural, that's probably the word. There's something very natural about that, but it can get more complex than that, right? And again, a game like this saying, yeah, we can do that, or you could probably choose those things, but we're going to offer a variety of stuff. But it's just music to my ears, right? I mean, pretty much everything that was there. Again, a lot of just awesome mechanics, like, the race thing, say locking you out of certain places or certain activities or certain companions. I love that stuff. We've gotten it. It's not like that's a brand new concept. It's just, that's not in most, I would say, big like AAA stuff. It happens some, I mean, you'll get like a Baldur's Gate 3 that really leans into, if you're this, you'll have certain things that help you and you'll have certain things that hurt you, right? But it happens here and there, but it doesn't happen all the time. So a game that does it, I'm definitely for. The romanceable things, I feel like that's awesome because, it feels like games are just kind of pulling away from that stuff where it's like, we're just not going to have it, or it's just not going to be all that deep. And then, obviously they spend the first while of it, and even in the article, it's like beginning and end is talking about Mass Effect. And that's important. It is important because, like, look, I don't think you're ever going to create something like brand new and original nowadays, right? Like everything has kind of been done. new ideas are very hard to come by, but, you got to kind of carve out your own. And then, like, if the game feels a little bit like Mass Effect, that's not a bad thing, right? Like, that's leaning into one of the better franchises we've ever gotten in that genre and in that space. So, I think part of the article was almost like just defending that, like, hey, yeah, we have the right to kind of like do our own thing. And it's like, of course you do. Maybe it was a little too slanted that way, where it's like, oh, well, the Expanse and Mass Effect are so close. Like, how close to Mass Effect is it going to be? Just let them kind of do their own thing. Of course, they're going to be influenced by it, and you should, because like the best games out there are the games that really define something back in the day. I mean, these were games that defined the late 2000s and early 2010s in the RPG genre. And BioWare was one of, if not the company that defined the RPG genre for like 10 plus years through Mass Effect, Dragon Age, even KOTOR, right? Like if you're not learning something from that and you're not using that in your games now and trying to bring something new to it, what are you doing? So it's like, of course that's going to be an element of it. So I think just saying all the right things, right? It's going to be inspired. It probably should. It's probably going to feel a little familiar, but then it's going to do a lot of things that isn't in that. And like I said, I mean, like, we haven't had a good Mass Effect game, in my opinion, since 3. It's been 10 plus years. So it's like, if BioWare is not going to do it, if we're not going to, I mean, I think it's going to happen. I made a video. It's going to go live in like a week or so talking about Mass Effect. It might take another, 3-4 years to get Mass Effect. And even if we do get it, competition is good. Competition is good for BioWare, which is gravely fallen behind with Dragon Age and also doing nothing. Well, I guess Anthem before and all that stuff. But, you need games like Exodus. You need games like Baldur's Gate that does, that's a slightly different genre. But still, you need games that are within the RPG realm to push, because you don't get competition if you don't push, right? You need Baldur's Gate. You need Exodus. You need The Expanse, amongst many others. But these are kind of the ones on my radar, right? You need those to drive each other. And I think that can only lead to good things. So let me know what you guys think in the comments. Make sure, as always, you're subscribed to the channel, the icon turned on, and I hope to see you all on the next one.